We are very, very excited and honoured to have Professor Shafi Ahmed with us this evening. Shafi is a multi-award winning surgeon, teacher, futurist, innovator and entrepreneur. Much of Shafi's time is spent at the Royal London and St Bartholomew's hospitals, where he works as a consultant cancer surgeon. But outside of his day job, Shafi's very busy as well. He's very passionate about finding ways of translating modern technology into clinical practice with a mission to provide affordable and accessible surgical training to anyone and everyone. In 2014, Shafi made world headline news by streaming a live operation using Google Glass to 14,000 students and trainees across 132 countries. In December 2016, he used the Snapchat spectacles to record and teach surgery across the globe, which has had over 100,000 downloads and reached millions of people through social media. In 2018, Shafi performed a live operation on a programme for Channel 5, and the following year it was nominated for a BAFTA. Shafi is also the founder of a company called Medical Realities, who've developed the world's first virtual reality training platform for surgeons. He's received numerous awards for all of his different work, including the Silver Scalpel Award for the Best National Trainer in Surgery, the British Bangladeshi Person of the Year in 2016, and also the Future NHS Award in 2018. More recently, Shafi has been working to revolutionise teaching at Barts and the London School of Medicine and Dentistry, which is where we are today, by introducing the first digital health course for medical students in the world. So we are very honoured to be joined by Shafi this evening to help us answer the big question, will robots replace surgeons? Please can you give a very warm welcome to Shafi Ahmed.
Hi everybody. In reality. Thanks so much. So look, coronavirus is so interesting. I think it's the inflection point of humanity, illustrated about what we're managing going forward. We're managing the right diseases in the right, correct way. Can technology empower us even further? This was a remote consultation based on using avatars, using mixed reality headsets with 3 people connected across 3 parts of the globe, 3 time zones, just connected through a simple 3G connection. Can you imagine how the world becomes a smaller place? With the coronavirus, contact is difficult. Reaching out to people is hard. We're using 111 as a conversation piece to get them to self-isolate. So imagine that's the future. And we'll talk more about the future as we go on, because the question that we have, of course, is the whole concept of robots going to replace surgeons. As a surgeon, I'm a cancer specialist working at the Royal London. I'm a colorectal surgeon. I take people's cancer out from the bowel through keyhole. That's kind of my day job. But I also talk about this whole concept of digital transformation, the future of healthcare, and how we're going to reimagine this concept of healthcare that's more equitable, more accessible and more affordable. And we'll go through that over the next few slides. So what makes a good surgeon? I often ask my students, medical students, trainees, etc. I'm met with many different answers. What is it? Sometimes it's arrogance comes across as the first answer. Sometimes it's cynicism. More importantly, it's the factors that make a good doctor. These are kind of things I put together. What does a good surgeon do? Well, first of all, they have to be able to operate. It's kind of what we do. Wield the knife, make cuts at various places. So as a surgeon, we operate. It's more than that. As human beings, who are we? We have judgment. We take history. We examine people. We think about experiences which make the diagnosis different. Also, it evolves over the course of our lifetime. We have to be good teachers. We have to communicate effectively with our patients and our team members. Of course, we have to have empathy. So I'm going through all of these things and say, where can we replace a surgeon's human, given the fact that this is how we define ourselves going forward. How many of you have heard of this concept of the 4th Industrial Revolution? Anybody? Put your hands up. A few people. So you should all hear about this. This is what we're living through at the moment. We've lived through the first, second, third revolutions. The first one, of course, was mass production of goods. The second one, of course, was transportation of those goods across continents. The third one, we're living through today. It's the age of the computer. In the last 50, 60 years, we've lived this life through computerization. We will have a tablet, a phone, a mobile phone, computers, over 50 years. Difficult to define what it is. The fourth is much more tricky. It's a convergence of technologies. So what we're talking about is all these technologies. I often say to my students and my audiences around the world, this is simply the most amazing time to be alive in medicine. Not a year ago, not 3 years ago, not 5 years ago. It's today. We've never had such riches of technology and innovation coming together at the same point of human existence, the point of inflection. And this is where we are. Not just one technology. Don't think about AI on its own. You're thinking about genomics, the brain-computer interface, virtual reality, augmented reality, wearable sensors, big data, AI, all converging. We've got to figure out now, as doctors, as healthcare professionals, as engineers, as computer scientists, what does that mean to society? How do we create healthcare that's just far better than we've ever imagined? And think big. I want you to go away thinking in the biggest term possible, of course. The next term to think about is that terminology of fourth industrial revolution, which was coined by Klaus Schwab, who's the chairman of the World Economic Forum chairman, about 4 years ago at Davos. 4 years down the line this year, that's converted to globalization 4.0, which means those technologies can help people around the world very quickly. How do we enable, how do we scale up all these technologies to help healthcare? And that's the new terminology, as you might have seen in Davos this year, globalization 4.0. But of course, then the concept is about this term of exponential change. One thing I want to teach you in this audience before you go away is the concept of exponential thinking. We are living across this time here where we're seeing a rapid change, incredibly fast, okay? We know about Moore's law and the doubling of speed of computers every 18 months or so. But actually, this is incredible. See where human existence is and now how we're getting to the point of this huge rise in the curve. I want you to go away and become exponential thinkers. I'll give you an example. Our brains are wired to think linearly, in linear steps. That's who we are. So if I say to you, let's take, what's your name? Mira. If I say to you, let's take 30 linear steps. Let's step together. How far would I get? You know, from here to the end of the conference hall, right? Now, what's your name? Cordelia. If I said to you, let's take 30 exponential steps, the way that we're being powered, how far would we get?
Outside this building.
Outside this building. Any advances? What's your name?
Ursula.
Ursula, what do you think?
Quite far.
How far? Think. What do you think? Huh? We'd have gone around the planet 26 times. That's the pace of change around you. So I want you to go away today and do one thing only for me. You go and become exponential thinkers. Is that okay? You do that for me? Because what we accept, sadly, is this essence of mediocrity. Hands up those in the audience who want to be mediocre in their lifetime. Mediocre. Who wants to be mediocre? Hands up. You know, I've asked that question all around the world, about 35 countries, and no one's put their hand up yet. I'm waiting for the first person who accepts mediocrity. But by definition, if you don't challenge every process, everything that you're doing every day, changing it, redesigning, improving it, you're accepting mediocrity by default. Is that right? You're accepting it. You're not changing, you're not thinking. And medicine's like that. You've got to constantly challenge what we're doing today to improve the lives of tomorrow. But of course, who's heard the term singularity? Anyone heard the term? Yeah, so there's two singularities. One is about the black hole, forget that definition. We're talking about the convergence of humans, computers, avatars, digital people, etc. At the point that human existence can be replaced artificially and better and improved, we call it the point of singularity. Ray Kurzweil, who was the Google head of engineering, came up with the term, and he thought it might be about 2040. It keeps changing. So soon, at some point, will human existence be overpowered and improved by computers? And then we move into the whole world of transhumanism. Look it up. This is fascinating topics that we've discussed, which will go on for a moment, and we'll talk about that, how we approach that. So the singularity, as Ray Kurzweil said, is near, not long away. So how do we resolve that in our minds? Let's go back to my own global problems. I tend to travel a lot around the world, as people who follow me on social media will have seen, working with governments, universities, institutions in over 35 countries, think how do we redesign healthcare that's going to be changing the world that we live in? We have some huge issues. We know there's no money in the world. Of course, costs are going up. The GDP of every country at the moment is going up, and we can no longer afford healthcare as it is. So that's one problem. The other problem, of course, is healthcare workers. We have to train many more people. By 2030, The World Health Organization predicts we're going to be about 15 million health workers short in the world. So how do you solve that problem? How do you solve the issues around manpower, lack of it, increasing costs? There's no point saying keep throwing more money at it, keep doing it. We have to redesign it. We have to be smart. Smart technology, smart innovation is going to be the way we create healthcare and society in the future that's much more productive. So those are the two issues that we need to solve. Of course, we're now being helped by people supporting digital transformation. NHS, of course, with the TOPA review came out a year ago saying we've got to do better. And the World Health Organization suddenly released its report last year that now digital is going to be a solution for us. They labeled 10 areas which could be improved by digital transformation. So now we've been helped by the kind of legacy. We're helped by the kind of the big global, I guess, ambition. And now we've been supported in a way that we haven't been before. So this is really important to set the dialogue. Let's talk about teaching. Well, I'm a surgeon, so this is one of the facets of my teaching. I teach a lot around the world, of course, and at Bart's Medical School. I was Associate Dean here for about 10 years, until last year, teaching the next generation around surgery, etc. So what does teaching look like? And how do we become teachers of the new environment?
I remember the teacher talked and we listened. We had to memorise quite a lot too. A lot of time was spent giving out books and collecting them up again. We were sitting in rows in desks so we could see the board better because talk and chalk was the way.
There must be an industrial revolution in education, in which educational science and the ingenuity of educational technology combine to modernise the grossly inefficient and clumsy procedures of conventional education. Sidney L. Pressay, 1924.
These young people are studying in a new way.
A computing calculator designed for use in high school classrooms has created tremendous excitement among educators.
The tool which has made this possible is the high-speed digital computer operating with electronic precision on great quantities of information.
If we think about the third industrial revolution, that was PCs and the internet, and we just about caught up with that. The fourth industrial revolution is what becomes possible from those technologies.
Industry 4.0 is the next big shift in the way that manufacturing operates. Digital know-how is going to be hugely important, and then people will need to be flexible because the world will change.
The future workplace and future societies, we're still moulding them as we go. And technology is one of the main pillars in what is shaping what the future will look like.
The pace of change is remarkable, with the introduction of these exponential technologies creating a paradigm shift to create Education 4.0. So now you've got technology around where we're living. It's the fourth industrial revolution, it's Education 4.0, Health 4.0. Or the fourth industrial health revolution, whatever you like to call it. We're now living this new terminology, a new language that we're describing. And education is going to be incredible in the future. And as future doctors, some of you, future healthcare professionals, it's going to be a really amazing time to see how we educate the next generation. Of course, we're connected. And one of the things about the whole of society now, we're connected through drones, through Facebook, cables through Microsoft. Obviously, SpaceX is producing satellites in the sky, etc. So there's no excuse anymore. We're connected. So don't think about remoteness. Think about how we're more connected, the commonality of man, how you share knowledge on a global scale. One thing that struck me about a surgeon is I often sit in the operating theatre, and we teach a lot of people, of course, and we'll talk about that in a moment, how we can redefine that. But of course, if you think about teaching, this is Harvard Medical School. This is what I aspire to be like, that person centre of the room with attention, you know, being the star of the show and people being taught around a big theatre. But do you think the learning at the top of that room is any good? What can they see? This is how we've historically trained people for many years. We've never challenged it. Let's fast forward that same picture to earlier, kind of late last century actually. This is the Texas Heart Institute coming up. Tell me, what learning is in that environment? I talk about it's learning by a process of osmosis and diffusion. By being the presence of this great surgeon, yes, and taking these kind of vibes, these kind of radio waves from him, whatever it is. We haven't challenged that. We still teach. We have students at medical school, for example, 6, 7, 8 of them in a room. What do? They're bored for 8 hours a day in the back of the room, being ignored entirely. Is that right, guys? And then what they do occasionally, they're on their smartphone, on Snapchat, on Instagram, Yes. On TikTok, I'm told my son that's new. Yes, and I have no idea what it is. Yes, but they engage in different ways. So we haven't changed the way we teach for hundreds of years, and we carried on, not challenging the dogma, tradition, accepting mediocrity. It's the same old process. Something we can do better. So I've taught on social media. I thought, let's push that boundary, using Snapchat, using Twitter, using Facebook. And we did Operation Live last year. I'm sure you've seen it on Channel 5. The first live operation in real time, of course, for the public on Channel 5 for 2 hours. And we're pushing this out to millions of people around the world. Just having a smartphone is the access point. You can teach people on a global scale. Before, my knowledge was passed to a few people in an operating theatre. The twin operation was shared by 56 million people around the world, okay, as a Snapchat. Suddenly, that knowledge can be traversed and actually much more empowering. Imagine medicine the same way, having helped many more patients around the world. And yours truly, we were shortlisted for a BAFTA award. Can you imagine? Who would have thought I go to the BAFTA awards last year with a glitterati? Yes? We didn't win, we came second, but hey, we made it to the BAFTA awards. It's just showing that actually we've got to think differently, push that boundary where it's safe and acceptable, but push limits. Let's talk about a few technologies now that understand the process. Augmented reality, this is where you have a headset on, of course. You saw earlier in that first video about coronavirus, which we created. That's augmented reality. It augments the world that you live in. It's like a fighter pilot who's got this overlay information in the jet. Yes, that's augmented reality. So what we're doing now, of course, you'll see this whole change of the way we teach the next generation of people. Who remembers a Google Glass? Anybody? Did anybody have a Google Glass? No, okay, so this is really interesting. You've got to wrap it. So I thought, okay, a few years ago, I thought I need to teach in a different way. I'm kind of need to move that needle forward. And the Google Glass came out, and we got it early, and my medical students actually reconfigured it, added some software so we could live stream an operation. What we did, we streamed an operation live from Barts, from the Royal London Hospital to our medical students and around the globe. And what we did, of course, we did this. I streamed a cancer operation, a cancer surgery, which is, universal. We streamed live, and I taught 14,000 people in a single day, just by pushing it out onto a smartphone. They could watch it on their smartphone through my point of view. They could text a message, and that message would come on the glass in the corner. I could answer it in real time, answer it, and move on, interact with the whole audience using just smartphone technology. I even taught this man how to do surgery or simple suturing. Does anybody know who this is? Any ideas? No, that's me, but the guy next to me. You'll know who that is, of course.
An astronaut?
Astronaut, no, so who has an Apple phone in the audience? Yes? So you should. This is John Scully, the ex-CEO of Apple. Yeah, he's created the first trillion-dollar company with Steve Jobs. He got sacked by Steve Jobs in the field that you've all seen, I'm sure, right? So I taught this 70-year-old man who's thinking about technology in a bigger way, transatlantically how to do a small procedure. So if I can teach a 70-year-old man remotely to suture, who's the head of one of the biggest companies in the world, I can teach anybody almost. It's that kind of proof of concept that we can redefine the way we teach and share knowledge. Now that Google Glass was interesting. It kind of had a bad press, lost its favor. Then about 6 months ago, I was at another conference in Germany, and someone had the Google Glass and said, I found out utility for it. So great, what does it do? I can control it just with eye contact, my retina movement, having the glass for patients who can't move, who are immobile. So I couldn't resist taking this video and putting sound to it. So that's controlled just by my retina movements. Yes, nothing else. So imagine if you're immobile, you've had a stroke, or you're paraplegic, you put the glass on, you can actually be mobile. Society is going to change. I put a video out the other day on LinkedIn, which has had over 250,000 views now, on a cafe in Japan. In Japan, there's a cafe where they've got robots. They just walk around and taking orders, speaking to the people that come into the cafe. I think that's interesting. What's the point of that? It's a bit scary. They're coming close to you, talking to you, taking orders. But the back end of that, those robots are controlled by people who can't move at home. They're in bed, they've been immobile for a long time, and they're getting paid by connecting just their fingers and their minds and moving these robots around talking to people. So they say 70% of all the jobs in the world haven't been introduced yet, because we don't know what they look like. Suddenly you're empowering people through technology, starting to have jobs who never would have had a job in the first place. So think about that technology. So let's go forward from that. What about the whole concept of training? This is a new concept of training in augmented reality. Many companies now working on platforms allowing you to kind of experience overlays of information in real time, whether it's training, whether it's on your smartphone or iPhone, etc. We're now seeing these kind of devices coming out, which revolutionise teaching and training. Those of you who go to medical school in the next 5 years, you'll see this. Some medical school in America have taken away dissection entirely. It's all based on augmented reality. So it's going to reimagine and design the way we educate the future generations, and particularly surgeons. So teaching is going to become very, I guess, digital in the future. These are my friends from Japan who, during the operation, are creating real-time images of MRI and CT scans overlaid to see tumours, to see blood vessels, to be able to plan the operation beforehand, and in the operation you can see what's going on, hopefully giving you advice during the operation to make it safer. Okay, so incredible kind of thing that's happening at the moment. This is my Iron Man thing. This is amazing. This imagine being in the operating theatre, we scrubbed up, you can't touch the screen, you want to find some information. Suddenly you can do this by these kind of techniques where you can literally go up and just move things around in real time. This is like the Iron Man, isn't it? Changing things in real time on the screen, etc. So even we're thinking about the contact-less way of communicating in the future. What about virtual reality? They call me the virtual surgeon because I spend my life in a virtual world. My wife says, great, okay, rather be in a virtual world than be in real life, of course. But actually, it's about this whole concept of being in this virtual environment, which I showed you earlier on that coronavirus video. So what do we do next? All this stuff is remoteness, okay? It's about being distant, whether it's social media platforms, whether it's AR. We're about bringing people to you in virtual reality. They can experience what you're experiencing anywhere around the world. So we did the world's first virtual reality operation back in 2016. This is the concept of the future of digital surgery, which we'll explain in a moment. This is a video I took from the Dubai Futures Museum. So I was at the World Government Summit giving a keynote about the future of healthcare, and they gave me a snippet of the Dubai Futures Museum, which is going to be all like this. 3D printing, AR, VR, immersive tech. There's going to be computer, AI systems involved, graphic design. So when Dubai opens Expo 2020, later this year, you should go and see it. You see the museum open. It will have some amazing technology for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. It's worth a visit to Expo 2020. But of course, VR is good. We're seeing real-time applications. What thought to be sci-fi before is now being used for pregnancies, for women going through labour, and actually using a headset to overcome some of the pain requirements. We're seeing people with post-traumatic stress disorders, for cognitive behaviour disorders, for depression, for hypertension, now being prescribed VR therapy. And we'll see more and more of that. So you may think it's far-fetched, but actually it's becoming now commonplace. We get a lot of clinical trials now showing efficacy around VR therapy. Of course, that drives a lot of change for us, the therapy side of things. So we talked earlier about the first VR surgery. So this was at Royal London against my medical students here with the world's first VR surgery about 2 or 3 years ago now. This is a platform that we created, Medical Realities. So we're creating a whole platform around this where you can now learn anatomy, perform OSCEs, and look at patient journeys. So all that platform now is available on a VR headset, and actually now you can learn in a different fashion. We can actually just spend half an hour in an immersive environment, do all the learning, validate your results, take it away and move on. It's much more powerful. They said that VR allows you to retain 80% more information than normal 2D linear images. So there's a value in around this kind of new learning system. Of course, as we move on in this virtual world, we'll be using haptics, feedback, and suddenly we'll be immersed in the suits, Tesla suits they call them. I've tried them on where you've got sensors, you can feel things in that space. Also, you'll be able to touch, feel. And soon, at some point, you'll be able to perform an operation remotely in virtual environment, but feeling the texture of skin, the pressure sensors. So we can almost replace some of our senses already going forward. And imagine that in 5, 10 years' time, it becomes much more pragmatic. So we talk about teaching, and it's exciting. The teacher of tomorrow will be digital. Otherwise, you'll be obsolete, no question. What about these areas that we have, the diagnostics, the judgment, the competence that we want to do, and also the communication kind of part of our lives. How do we replace that? Osman's a GP here, of course, Dr. Abati's a GP, and I say to him, and he's a futurist like me, think about how technology. And Osman, we've got to talk about how we replace or augment our lives using these kind of technologies. So how do we do this? We think we're infallible. But let's talk about this kind of going forward. So artificial intelligence is a key term that we use, of course, but we shouldn't call it artificial intelligence. We often call it intelligence augmented. Augmented intelligence, IA, not AI. What does that mean, of course? That means we're going to use AI to improve, consolidate, help, support, assist us in different ways. Let's talk about that in a moment. AI is going to be the biggest technology in our lifetimes. It'll be silent in the background, being powered, making decisions constantly for us, allowing us to improve the healthcare, but despite the costs involved. That's the key element which we described to you. Let's go back. This is when I qualified a while ago now, of course. I remember taking the Hippocratic Oath, which has now been replaced, of course. And this is what we assume, the doctor-patient relationship, of course. This human contact, the human interface. That makes sense. The empathy, the breaking bad news, the being close to hand. We all kind of think that's what human beings are about. That's true. I break bad news every Tuesday, my cancer clinic. And you need this kind of empathic approach with an MDT team and your nurse specialist in that room with you. If I said to you that's too expensive now, my contact, my being here is too expensive. We've got to redesign that. That's no longer possible. You can't now go to a hospital, expect to see somebody face to face. We've got to change the discussion. Is society ready for that discussion? Well, that's a different thing for us to solve. These are the futurists of 1924, thinking we need to do different things. Telemedicine they're describing, with radio waves. We have to see people do it in a different fashion. 100 years ago, can you imagine? They're thinking, actually, what about this as a concept? We're now discovering the whole aspect of telemedicine. But actually, what we're describing now is this. We're seeing patients now constantly through telemedicine platforms, on your smartphone, on your computers, all around the world. So many companies out there now offering a proper face-to-face contact on a 2D interface, a screen. Is that okay? We're accepting it more and more now. It's called social redesign. It's kind of redesign the way we behave, what we expect out of healthcare. Is what I'm saying to you. We've got to redesign that. Social re-engineering is required to create a much better healthcare system. Imagine with coronavirus. Imagine if everyone's got a telemedicine platform now, connecting very quickly. Would we have such problems? No, we'd be able to give advice straight away. Much easier, and use all the time zones around the world to connect with any time of during the day. It makes sense. Use healthcare workers in a more smart fashion. All right? We're all short of doctors and healthcare workers. So use the entire world's resources in a different way. That's where we solve some of the problems. Now, you may think telemedicine is not that important. Check China out. And China have been highlighted, been really good at managing the coronavirus. The WHO, I think they've done a great job. And I'll show you the video where it's all plateauing out very quickly now, and on top of the actual infection and the pandemic. Here's Ping An. Can you imagine this telemedicine platform? They have 300 million users. Can you imagine? It's telemedicine on steroids. Okay? And we have 650,000 consultations per day. They're scaling. They're thinking, so there's a lot to learn from other parts of the world, not just the UK. We can learn from other areas, India, Brazil, South America, China. How do we think differently? What is it they do that we can't do? So I think that's the important innovation. This is what they do now, of course. You can go into that little red box. You can go get consultation in telemedicine. The doctor will see you, telemedicine platform, say, oh, you need a prescription. Here's a prescription. Go next door and pick it up. Computer will just give it to you straight away in a little packet. Off you go. It's immediate, isn't it? So I talk about us about the one-click generation, yes? We use Amazon. We want a book within 2 hours for some strange reason. We can't wait 3 or 4 or 5 days. We want it immediately. Just Eat, or Hungry House, or Deliveroo. If that person on the end of that phone or the smartphone says to you, your food will be about 2 hours away, you're so angry. You're almost like, I'm starving, I'm going to die before that food gets here. I'd rather walk out and get something myself. Uber. You order Uber on your phone. If it says 20 minutes away, you can't be asked. You'd rather walk, right? You want it with 1 or 2 minutes. We have immediacy. Yet when you go see a GP, what happens? Make an appointment. When is that appointment? 2 weeks? You say it's okay, no problems. I'm okay. How does that make any sense? Well, we're rewarding food, a taxi, or a book in 2 hours, and we don't use resource properly to give us healthcare immediately. It makes no sense, right? We've got to reverse our dynamic with society. So this is the kind of thing that's happening, of course. But we're moving on. We're now moving on to telemedicine platforms using chatbots. So the first point of contact in the future will not be a human being. It will be a chatbot, triaging you, asking questions using AI, understanding your questions, reanalyzing, offering you returns. So now we have, of course, Babylon and Ada and many others creating these chatbots. And you've seen all the issues around chatbots, and they may not be as effective sometimes, but as they get more and more powerful, they'll become our go-to place, of course.
Hi Louise, my name's Dr. Kultag Archer. Nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you too.
So I can see you've completed our AI assessment, and from this, can I confirm that you've been having dizziness for a few months now with some hearing loss and also...
So this is showing you AI, diagnostics in real time, voice language to text.
Yeah, I don't have it at the moment.
AI looking at your facial features, giving you clues about predictive behavior. And it's writing all the text for you and giving a diagnosis. Is that much more effective? Is that a more effective way of using our resources? So this is coming out soon. The power of voice is quite strong. You've seen already how the voice intonates, etc. The voice has vocal biomarkers. We can use the voice in much better ways. We're now using voice as a way of predicting cardiac failure. If you speak to your smartphone every day, you've got a history of cardiac failure, you can predict an onset of a new attack before 2 weeks before it rises, just by listening to your voice and suddenly using the vocal biomarkers. So we're not using all the assets that we have. What if we used Alexa as our first point of contact?
Hi Alexa, I want to speak to Babylon.
Hello Louise, how can I help you?
Well, I've been feeling a bit dizzy recently.
I'm sorry to hear that. Can you tell me a bit more? Do you feel like the room is spinning, or are you feeling faint?
Yeah, sometimes it feels like the room's spinning.
And have you noticed any hearing loss?
Yeah, I have actually.
Do you have a ringing, buzzing, or humming?
So Alexa suddenly becomes your first point of contact. It's voice, using smart technology, using voice, AI, etc. Suddenly you think about going forward. So suddenly we'll be supported by AI in a different way, robotics, robots. What about diagnostics? Now, I threw my stethoscope away about 30 years ago. As a surgeon, who the hell needs one, right? I thought. It's true. It has very low value. We're now moving on to diagnostics that are smart. I'm working with a company called Echo, who've got smart stethoscope. You can place, it sounds, amplifies, gives the ECG recording straight to your smartphone. Why would you need a stethoscope to listen to tactile vocal fermenters? I have no idea, right? All these kind of things we learn are absolutely useless because we get a chest x-ray, we get ultrasounds constantly. So the whole diagnostics is going to change. So if you look at diagnostics as a whole now, we are moving on. Ultrasound, portable ultrasound now in your pocket, butterfly, making it very cheap and affordable. And soon you'll be able to not train as a radiologist, but just place a probe somewhere using AI. It'll tell you exactly what's going on. You don't have to be trained. It takes away some of the manpower issues that we need from the first slide. We can redesign things. Anybody can scan any part of the world and get an accurate diagnosis. And of course, we're now seeing the uses in kind of images, X-rays, CT scans. In fact, these are out already in terms of being sold. And DeepMind, of course, the Google company, are looking at retinal scans in more fields, predicting retinal changes using OCT scans. So we're seeing a huge use in images in AI, which is one of the key illustrators that we have. This is one of my companies, Imera. We're looking at X-rays at the moment, hundreds of thousands of them, to predict fractures, looking at fractures of the neck of the femur, looking at pelvic fractures, arthritis, infections. So you go through A&E soon, you take an X-ray and give you the answer into your smartphone within a millisecond. No point in waiting around. You'll know what's abnormal, normal, what do you do about it, and not miss diagnosis. It's 97% accuracy at the moment. So this is what we want, take with the fallibility of humans and improving it. As a surgeon who performs endoscopy, this is interesting. This is now looking at images within the colon, your polyps. Polyps are notoriously difficult. Sometimes see them, you miss them. Sometimes you're not quite sure what they are. Are they adenomas? Are they cancers? What are they? So can you see the polyp in this picture on the left? And you can't. The AI picks it up. You can just about see in a second a small lesion. It's picked up better than a human person. All right? This is my new algorithm. This is what's going to happen in the future. You're going to see, not a doctor, AI chatbot. Imagine you've got hemoptysis, vomiting blood, or sorry, coughing up blood, which signifies cancer sometimes. You go to a chatbot, put your details in. It give you a rough triage diagnosis. Say, right, go and get an X-ray. The X-ray is done and reported by an AI algorithm immediately into your smartphone saying, abnormal, go and see your doctor. That's what you want. You don't want to hang around a week waiting for a result, for example. Then that takes you to a biopsy. Go and get biopsy. Well, the biopsy is done by a system with AI. This is Auris from America, where it navigates using CT scan automatically where the tumour is in your lungs and takes the biopsy automatically. You don't have to be trained, for example, right? They'll take you before. Redesign the workforce. And of course, the pathology will be looked at by an AI pathologist, giving a diagnosis, and then you begin to a surgeon who will do robotic surgery for you. So imagine that coming in the next 5 or 10 years as a new pathway of clinical diagnostics. And this is exciting, of course. So the question that I often get asked by a lot of people, will AI replace doctors? What do you think? Well, what's clear, it may be that we won't be replaced, but it's more about this. AI won't replace the doctor. The doctor who doesn't use AI will be replaced fairly quickly. Okay? Because you're not fit for practice, you're obsolete, you've got to use technology in a different way. So rather than be replaced, it's supporting, assisting, and augmenting our practices. Let's move to operate. We've done the teaching, the communication, the diagnostics, and we show how we can be supported using technology. What about operations? Now, could you replace a surgeon to operate? Would you trust a robot in the future to do your operation? Yes, someone says. Supervised. Yeah, so we are getting to that same conversation. How many of you drive a car? Okay, so do you trust your car? Implicitly. You jump into your car, you turn the ignition, you shove your foot in the accelerator, and you go. That car has been built by a robot, so every part, every component of it, right? You trust it with your lives every day. Without any questions. So the question is, how do we move that needle forward and say, can we trust robotics to assist, support, and the operations? And this is the whole world that's so exciting for us. And what's exciting is this world that I showed you before, the world of digital surgery that we're describing. So rather than the robot taking over, the robot will assist the surgeon now. It will support us. We've never had this riches of technology in surgery, where more objective data is coming out. We'll have visual, computer vision. We'll have AI interfaces. We'll have different way of measuring outcomes. Exciting times. Of course, we know about the kind of areas of surgery that are changing. This is going to be the future of the platform of a robot. Okay, it's a digital platform. It's enhanced visualization. It's robots, of course. Advanced instrumentation, connecting things and getting data out of it. Having this kind of system where we actually have much more accurate ways of measuring the outcomes of surgeons on a global basis. And it's good. We've seen lots of robots coming in now, and I say 2020 is the year of the robot wars. We're seeing robots now, FDA approved, coming out all around the world, being assisted and supported. And Intuitive Surgical with the Da Vinci was there alone for the last 15 years. Now everyone's coming out with smaller, more discrete, more robots, etc. So now we're seeing amazing technology that will revolutionize our processing powers and making surgery more precise, of course. What about doing an operation remotely? Imagine you're a patient in France and the surgeon was in New York, operating on you like this. This was back in 2001 with the old ISDN lines. Remember those? Would you trust that line? I mean, it's a bit slow and cumbersome, but they were doing it. Fast forward, what's changed? Well, what's changed is this, of course, 5G is coming in. How many of you have got a 5G phone? It's amazing, isn't it? You've heard of the Internet of Things, the connected things, everything's been connected around the world. 5G is that covalent bond, as I describe it. What does it mean? Well, it means that all the things we want to do is now finally possible. The speed of 5G on my phone, I can download at 1.5 gigabytes per second. A film in 2 seconds. The latency is 0.1 millisecond. Imperceptible to human mind. It's real time. So now that same operation that you saw earlier with ISDN lines can be done remotely. And this was in Wuhan, in China, who the surgeon operating remotely using 5G with no lag in real time, much more safe, much more sophisticated, etc. Suddenly, this whole thing's moved much more forward with this technology innovation, of course. Now we move on to the interesting part, autonomous cars. And now we're seeing Tesla and other car companies using autonomous. The cars now, you're going to be trusting soon with your life even more because they'll be driving it for you, right? So these are coming in. If you go to America, California, you can literally drive the car. It'll drive you around, of course, right? So what about surgeons? What about autonomous robots? Here we are. Here's the first surgeon that's autonomous. A robot that can do a join of 2 bowel together, anastomosis. Better than surgeon, greater apposition, less leak rates. Suddenly, you can augment our practices. Imagine that supporting you during the operation. So we're going through the whole area of this, this surgeon being replaced and augmented. What about these? Empathy and communication. We think empathy is so important. It is. Communication is so important. What can we do with that and change it? Can we change the interface between computer, between robots, humans? What does that look like in the future? How many of you have heard of the brain-computer interface? Well, soon what they're doing now, Neuralink and other companies, will directly plug into your brain. Okay, plug in, so you upload information. So soon medicine could be an upload. I want to be a doctor, upload information, walk out the door as a doctor. Maybe in the future, who knows? That'll upset Bart's medical school, of course, make no money in the future when you upload this information, right? But the working on interface. Now you think that's really far-fetched. How far away is that? Interesting. Let's take a look at a friend of mine who's already got his own brain-computer interface.
That's really cool.
He's controlling that through his brain. He's got connection already. That's the same handshake that we saw earlier, but in real life. So the BCR isn't as far as off you think it is. People are working on this whole system around having more information through to your brain. Let's talk about the real future. We're going to Mars, apparently in 2025, so Elon Musk tells us. Now one of us in the world will go to Mars. Be careful if you put your hand up, if you want to be that person. You're not coming back, right? Let's face facts, right? It's a one-way journey, right, to find Mars, all right? But we're going to be going. If Greta Thunberg is right, we're going to be extinct by the year 3000, possibly by 2050. That's what they're saying, right? It's not a lot of time, guys. So enjoy the next 20, 30 years as much as you possibly can, because that's what they're saying if you're an internal kind of not an optimist, of course. So let's go back. So this is the whole concept of going to Mars. I like that vision because it drives innovation. It drives remoteness. This is the people I'm working with, creating avatars to be able to perform life-saving maneuvers remotely. And we're doing work in California in kind of analog missions to Mars where we can use avatars to support anybody to train, etc. remotely. That's interesting. This is me, as I said before. You may think this is interesting. I do my wall dance sometimes like this. And I see my patients. Now you might think that's really abnormal. But within a minute of a conversation, the patient accepts it. They're seeing you directly, talking to you, it's okay. It just takes a while to adjust. That's all it is. Nothing else more than that. Imagine the coronavirus. How useful would this be, going around the wards, not spreading infection, right? See my patients. Yeah, of course. It kind of makes a difference as we go forward. This is my real ambition, guys. This is what I want to do, all right? I want to transmit myself in real time. And we're kind of working on this whole process. So how can I transport myself, like as in Star Trek? That's me, trying my best to transport myself in real time as a teleportation. I've created my own avatar, my digital human. That's me, the first digital surgeon, right? Virtual, that's why I call it virtual surgeon. We're programming that with AI, with voice tech. So that could give a talk today. It could be remote. It could assist you, for example. And it could assist anybody. Imagine that as a thing in the future that we can use. So we're trying our hardest to do this. We used Hololens a while ago to redefine how we kind of interact with human beings. You saw the video earlier. 2 years ago, we did something similar. I got 3 surgeons in a room together from different parts of the world. One in Mumbai, one in London, and one in New York, conversing together during an operation.
Hi everybody. Hi Shafi.
So the HoloLens itself really allows us to reshape the way we connect people, we communicate with people, and also to be used in teaching and training. Initially, when you put the HoloLens on, it feels a bit strange, but actually within a few minutes, it becomes quite normal. You feel as though you're just discussing cases with people in the same room, for example, like we do in normal hospital practice.
We can come in and actually look at this content in full 3D. And obviously when you're working in this case, the medical field, having a full 3D understanding of a situation, for example, is really much more
So
powerful.
those are blue polygonal images, okay? Not quite real people. What about this? So what about doing real holoportation? This is, I work with a company called Double Me, based out in Ravensbourne here in London, who are trying to create this whole concept around holoportation. So this is taking you, like this is my Princess Leia moment, of course, trying to save the world by calling Obi-Wan Kenobi for help. But actually, we can do that. This is what we did about a year ago.
Shafi, have a look at this.
Yeah, let me have a look over your shoulder. Oh yeah, I see what's going on there. I think I can give some advice, Carl. No problems. Thanks for calling me.
So I've given talks around the world as an avatar, as a hologram. I gave a talk in Liverpool last year where I just appeared, gave the talk and disappeared again. It's just kind of changing the way we might think about it. Imagine the coronavirus. Conferences need to change. This is the pinnacle moment around conferences. They can't carry on as they are. It's too expensive. Air flights are too expensive. Lots of fumes and kind of gases released to the atmosphere causing problems with climate change, of course. And also, it takes time out of people's work. How about thinking differently? How about virtual conferences, virtual lessons, etc.? Imagine today when all lessons are going to be closed in the next few weeks. If you had it virtually already done, you could be anywhere and avoid these problems that coronavirus is sorting. I said to you before, coronavirus is that inflection point for mankind. We have to think differently going forward. What about empathy? Can you replace empathy in a human being? That's difficult, right? Empathy is something that it's hard to construct, it's hard to deconstruct. What does it mean to us? It means that kind of relationship we have with our patients.
Hi, I'm Roman, a digital human brought to life by soul machines. With me, you can experience AI like never before because I learn and react emotionally like humans do.
What do you think of that? Suddenly, can you replace empathy? Who knows? Can you assist and support? Would you be happy with that? I'm going to leave the last words of my talk really to this lady here that I'm sure you've seen before, Sofia the robot, which I'm lucky I've met her a few times in my lifetime around my talks, but this is what she says.
How do you think we should save humanity?
Humans they're the most creative creatures on the planet, but they're also the most destructive and cruel. I want to spend my time around those who are nice and kind people and help everyone work toward a better, brighter future where everyone is treated well.
Thank you. So she wants to live in a world that we help one another, we communicate with one another with technology, we innovate. And my last quote is this, of course. This is a quote from William Gibson. As you've seen, what I've described is that we have got an amazing ambition here. Technology is going to empower us, used safely, correctly, in the right way, to make healthcare more affordable, more accessible, more equitable. Thank you very much.